thanks for dropping into this episode of Content Waves, a podcast about content-led innovation and the people in the space who are doing some really, really cool things. I'm your host, Monica, and today's guest is Tabitha Mussa, an account executive at Content.ai. She's worked for some of the biggest names in tech and content, Adobe, Dropbox, and now Content.ai. So of course we had to get her here and hear her perspective on how things are changing, but what remains the same. Hope you enjoy our conversation. Hey, Tabby, thank you so much for joining us on Content Waves. How are you doing?
Hey, Monica. I'm doing really well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, doing great too. I'm really energized and excited to have you on today. We've, talked last week a little bit about prepping the podcast, and I was so excited because you work for some of the biggest names in, SaaS and B2B tech. And, maybe that's a kind of nerdy topic for me, but I just want to pick your brain about, what you've seen on the market. So can you introduce to your listeners who you are and sort of contextualize our conversation a little bit today?
Absolutely. So yeah, really excited to be here as well. My name's Tabitha, but I go by Tabby as well. I've been very fortunate to have been in the SaaS space around over 13 years now, and loved, it's been sort of ups and downs, but loved the journey that I've been on. And yeah, as you said, worked for some pretty well-known names. I think certainly I was working for sort of like the beginning of my career, I was working for a company called Neolane, which was like a tiny French startup, and then we were acquired by Adobe, and all of a sudden it was right, you have sort of brand recognition all of a sudden. So I basically started my career as a business development executive, learnt my way around, okay, what is a conversation about technology, really got excited about solving business challenges and having these really insightful conversations with very senior people. And I was sort of fresh-faced and felt that it was a good place to be, especially from a learning point of view as well. In terms of my career development, I sort of grew into roles where I would take on more responsibility. So worked in sort of account management, talking to existing customers, and then from there sort of developed into an account executive, which I've been doing now for the last sort of 7-8 years now.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks for the introduction. What I'm really excited about to dig into you with today is, the vantage point you have as on the, commercial side of things, dealing with finding the best solutions for people to solve their problems, and then also this evolution you've seen in, the content space, sort of. So the tech that you've had to sell, the challenges that you've had to sell, and the organizations that you've sold into. So you mentioned Adobe, but also like big names like Dropbox, for example, like content in its own right. But now you're in the content management space as well. So let's dive into our first question. So what kinds of challenges would you say are businesses bringing to you right now, and what do you think's really going on under the surface?
Yeah, so good question to start with. So I guess it's when I talk to senior leaders, they're typically seeing the challenge from their point of view, which is quite interesting because I personally talk to people up and down the business. So it might be I'm sort of have more of a role of informing the senior leaders, this is actually what's happening in your business. So I think that kind of vantage point that I have is I get to talk to so many people in the business that I get to almost come up with a point of view of these are your business challenges and these are the kind of cause reasons, and then positioning a solution to fix that. And it's all sort of within the view of we're looking for these business outcomes and this is what we're looking to achieve. And I was sort of thinking about this earlier, where often companies are on sort of they're on a different maturity level depending on how many, what type of technology they're using, and how open they are to new ideas and new technology. And it can often be after being in the same business for maybe a decade or two, with some of these senior people who've sort of worked their way up, things are, they've always been this way, is something that I hear a lot. But it's, as things are changing, we have so many more channels now. There's just the proliferation of social media, and that kind of opens up its own, how do we grab the attention of our customers, our potential customers? There's sort of more different demographics that you need to appeal to. So almost it's like this explosion of content, and it comes in so many different forms that I see businesses struggle sometimes with managing all the different channels, and it's about how do we have this like cohesive way of communicating with customers. So that's definitely an observation that I've seen.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's not an easy task for you to come in and maybe give these folks a little bit of this is what's out there too. There are new realities that you can enjoy if you don't always have to stick with this is how it's always been. And as an outsider, that can be a tough thing to confidently bring to an insider, right?
Yeah, exactly. So what's really important is that that credibility of, we have done this before. I see this all the time. You're not alone. Just sort of giving that sort of comfort of it might seem overwhelming, especially as we start to go deeper into the conversation of, hey, how are you currently doing things, that kind of on an operational level. And sort of finding there might be some bottlenecks or ways where the process just doesn't make sense. It takes too much time. It's too many people are involved. Whereas like bringing in technology, depending what it is, can bring a lot of efficiency, especially in the CMS world where I get to talk a lot about, like workflow efficiency and managing your whole content operations as a complete unit, rather than thinking about, hey, we've got a website here, we've got email campaigns here, we've got knowledge bases here. It's I'm seeing more of that kind of consolidation to bring in that efficiency.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you bring up. So in terms of, it's not just a tech, but you're also looking at people and processes and having to act as a guide sort of on all of those things. So I'm curious, when teams know that something's off, but maybe they aren't sure what to fix. So how do you help figure out where they are in their journey? It's not just this is the tech for you, but you kind of then, if you're looking at workflow efficiency, there's probably a little bit more there that you're having to share and having to suss out for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly that. It is that intersection of, as you said, people, process, and technology. I think when people are making these purchasing decisions, it's often a lot of organizational change needs to happen as well, especially with something so like business critical, like the content that businesses are creating and publishing. So yeah.
Yeah, when we were talking a little bit about this episode, one thing that you brought up to me that I definitely wanted to cover was that you mentioned some of the softer challenges that can derail progress. So, we always think about, what's the business outcome, what's the ROI, but things that make people like happy that they've got a new software because they were feeling a specific way. So, can you tell me a little bit about some of the soft challenges that you sell into and how you talk to these folks about them?
Yeah. So I think we touched on this last week, where I hear, especially talking to what we might call like the sort of end users, it's really about things like team morale can be down if they're, you go into work every day, you've got your deadlines to meet, but the technology that you're using is either so disconnected and clunky that you just spend most of your time sort of pulling out your hair, like rather than really focusing on what content's really about, which is sharing a message in a creative way. And So yeah, I often hear, team morale is down. Where, we don't see the light at the end of the tunnel in terms of like things are not improving. Things are becoming much more difficult to navigate, as mentioned earlier, with so much content that businesses need to produce now. It's not just a marketing department problem anymore. It's much more about the entire organization, how they're perceived on the market, in the marketplace, how they compete in the market. Things like that.
Yeah, so you come in, and of course you mentioned you can say you're not alone, you're not the only organization dealing with this, but I can imagine if you can provide not just feature matching to what they need, but also advice on workflows or best practices from existing customers of the solution that you're selling. That does that spark a little bit of excitement or joy so what kind of stories are you telling that make people like, oh, this could make me feel better coming into work every day?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, sharing those customer stories is really important, rather than sort of the high level of, this company achieved these business results. That, like, with those softer outcomes as well. It's important to kind of weave in the complete change. So it's not only, yes, you can publish content faster, you can be more efficient, you can deliver the same content to multiple channels. Okay, that's great on paper, but what does this mean for me and my team as a business leader, as a digital leader? How will this help us, be more innovative, bring, enjoy the work that we're doing and feel like we're making good progress as well.
I love to hear your perspective on like the users of the software also are important people to impress during the sales process. So I can imagine that maybe the users, because they're, I don't know, more tech savvy, are they more involved in the decision-making process these days? How has that changed since, when you first started out versus now? What does that decisioning look like?
Yeah, certainly. I'm seeing more of this committee across different departments, across different levels. So it doesn't all sit on the shoulders of the leader in that department. I'm seeing more and more that the end users are much more tech savvy. They're using technology in their personal lives. I hear a lot, people are using AI in their personal lives, and so bringing, that kind of trickles into their work life as well. So with that, when something needs to change in terms of, okay, we need to evaluate some technology, we need to change maybe some processes that aren't working so well for us now, because it affects so many more people in the team. Everyone seems to have at least more of a look in and more of a voice. So this kind of, decision by committee rather than, and even, it's kind of going higher up as well. So typically, maybe 10 years ago, I'd see, okay, there's a VP director level, and they've got their own budgets and they can go ahead and make these purchasing decisions. Whereas now it's more like a centralized decision where you need to get literally the CEO's approval for any purchasing. So it's more about, I think, also like going higher up and also sort of across to the users. I think just generally more people are involved.
I can imagine that changes you have to be so fluid in your conversation and the values that you speak to at any different time. What's it like to manage this set of internal dynamics when the stakeholders might have, I don't know, different outcomes that they're thinking about or focused on? How do you sort of balance that to make sure you're speaking to everybody in the room?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, everyone has their different language, the different points of value that really resonate with what they're trying to achieve. So absolutely, if I'm talking top line revenue to a content creator, they might be interested, but it's not something where they're maybe thinking about that on a day-to-day basis. And the opposite, if I'm talking to a CMO about oh, did you know you could feature dump basically about something in the software, they it just won't resonate with them. So certainly it's about understanding, what's really important to them, what's their role. And also when I'm talking about technology and evaluating technology with these stakeholders, it's, they have a day job and it's not buying software. So like my role is almost helping them to understand, okay, how do we, if we were to go down this route, what are the things that we need to check off the list? How do we create that business case internally to get the budget approved, to get this project approved? So almost I'm sort of like their business partner while they're going through the evaluation of, making sure that the technical fit is right, but also on a partnership level of, if we were to work with you, what would that look like in practice? So all the things like the support we can provide, the best practices, the knowledge sharing of, we've seen customers do this before. They actually had a very similar issue, and this is how we solved it for them. So bringing those customer stories to life definitely helps as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great. Man, lot to juggle, many stories to keep in your head and having to context switch so often. That's an enviable skill in a lot of ways and makes your job much harder, maybe even than it was many years ago. Or what's your take?
Yeah, I would say it's I think that's one of the reasons why I love what I do, because I'm continually learning. I'm rarely in my comfort zone in terms of, there's a lot still to learn. And as things evolve, as companies evolve, these buying committees are evolving, technology's evolving. It's my job to keep up with that as well. So yeah, certainly I'm definitely challenged in, I definitely find it a kind of good positive challenge to continue, keep pushing myself and keep learning.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, you mentioned something about, yeah, keeping up with the technology and how everything is evolving. Uh, do you find it's things are getting more technical, conversations are getting more technical, or is it still a balance of, like, the outcomes and storytelling and dynamics, and the tech piece plays a part, but so how does that sort of technical knowledge fit into sort of the wider context of what you're doing?
Yeah, I would say I've definitely had to upskill on my own kind of technical knowledge. I don't come from a necessarily a technical background, but it is really important to understand what I'm talking about. If I'm talking about something from a business outcome point of view, it's important to know why I'm saying that. What is it about the technology? So always kind of finding the connection between the two of, you want to achieve this, this is how we can help you achieve this. But yeah, I think buying technology is a kind of a project of its own, and if that can be made simpler, or to have that trusted advisor who's kind of guiding you through that, that's literally how I see myself.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thanks for sharing. I noticed, and I think it's interesting to talk about, is maybe like a small technical detail can actually, or a small question opens you up to some bigger conversation. You're like, oh, that's why they're asking that, or it's not just this tiny thing, do you have this or do you have that or something. So what does that look like for you? We talked a little bit about that phrase that you used on our conversation that I'd love to get into, peeling the onion. Can you talk about what that means for you? I loved that phrase when we had our earlier conversation. So yeah, I'd love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, peeling the onion. So as you said, so someone in a say we're going through a platform walkthrough, a bit of a demonstration of this is what we've heard and this is how we can solve what we see as your challenge. And then someone towards the end of the call, when you've got maybe a few minutes left, and someone will say, yeah, but does it do this? And it's completely out of context of what we've already been through. And I'll just be thinking, why did they ask that right at the end when we could have maybe covered it? But it's often because they've sort of waited to hear what we have to say. But, you know, sort of in the terms of like peeling the onion, it's a case of, okay, do you mention this idea, or, you know, sort of less, you know, kind of maybe more subtle of how, like how did you come to this, or have you seen this anywhere else, or have you come across this before? And just sort of as you start understanding, even if it's a technical question, it often leads to, well, actually we have this business problem. So like one example might be someone had a data breach or something like that, but they'll ask about something in the governance of the workflows of can everybody publish this piece of content? But really it's about the data breach that was caused by someone publishing, you know, someone published something that shouldn't have been public. So in those scenarios, it's about sort of working backwards of peel that onion back, understand what's really causing that pain. Because often it's technology pain isn't often about, oh, we can't, you know, the button's green, not red. You know, that's not really a business pain or problem. But as you sort of start to peel back, it can be, sort of more related to the business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can imagine if you say, yeah, of course we've got governance in our workflows, and you just move along, then you're missing this opportunity to uncover something that could actually be quite a different conversation changer, and you could find someone who feels really comfortable and confident to recommend you in the final round or something like that, because you heard what they were asking rather than heard what they were asking, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, the question, it's like, what's the question behind the question?
Mm-hmm.
And often you have to go sort of 3-4 layers deep before you get to what's the, you know, what's that concern? Because every time I'm sort of talking to stakeholders, it can be, you know, this is a risk to the business, whether we do nothing, whether we change, whether we, you know, those are, you know, these are the options that we have. There's risk. There's a risk profile to everything. But if in the evaluation, you know, it feels like a good fit, but it's just a couple of concerns that they have. Maybe they've been burnt before. Maybe they've had a relationship breakdown with a previous vendor, something like that. It's always important to uncover those reasons, and, you know, show evidence of this is how we build that partnership with you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's great. Thanks for sharing. I think that's really valuable too. When you sell, it's mostly you're doing a whole lot of listening, yeah.
Absolutely.
So you talked a little bit about this already, about some of the things you love about your job is that it does keep you up on the challenges, learning new things, finding new ways to tell compelling stories. Is there anything else that you could share that keeps you so excited to continue to work, I don't know, in B2B SaaS or the content space? So what do you love most about your role?
What do I love most? Yeah, I think it does come back to that, you know, I'm like every day is different, and Every day is different. I get to talk to so many different people, very, very senior, very smart experts in their field. But I can help them in some way. And that really keeps me going of when I have these conversations. And sometimes it's not a good fit, and we part ways as friends. But when it is a good fit, and we can actually build that partnership together, they see the value in what we're doing, what we're trying to achieve, and I can sort of be a part of that journey. That's really super exciting for me when it all kind of comes together after maybe a quite a long engagement of a few months, a year maybe, and when it all sort of comes together of yes, we're going to start this project, and then it's like, okay, let's start building. Let's build your vision of what's possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And you bring up a good point around, especially in enterprise SaaS, that long engagement. It's not just a sales cycle, it's a relationship that you've been cultivating for such a long time. So that's an interesting point.
Yeah, exactly that. Like, I think things are taking longer as well. That would be another observation, especially in enterprise sales, where I think, as I mentioned earlier, when you do have more people involved, that's going to take more time. I think it's pretty normal. But I think during that engagement, if it is a very long engagement, it's important to keep all your stakeholders up to date, up to speed, keep them in the loop. As I mentioned, they're doing their day jobs that they're experts in. Maybe they have bought software before, maybe they haven't, maybe they bought software at their previous company but not the current one, and every company's different in their kind of internal process. So I sort of help them navigate that internally as well.
Yeah, that's not an easy job. Thank you so much for sharing those insights so far. So we're here to ride the content wave. So I ask each guest this closing question, just sort of this pay it forward in terms of getting some new recommendations. So can you recommend a book or an article or a podcast or some sort of piece of content that you find yourself coming back to again and again for some reason?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. I do listen to a lot of like audio books and music, so I'm more of like a audio file in that sense. So for me, it's if I travel a lot for between business meetings, things like that. I've always got my podcast. I've always got my audio books. So I was listening to Handmaid's Tale at the moment, which is it's really interesting. I haven't seen the series, but I wanted to read the book first. So yeah, very, very much audio based. Love my music as well. I'm learning to very early stages of learning the guitar. So I end up listening to like certain tracks that I'm like, okay, that sounds simple. There's only like 3-4 chords in that one. So yeah, any sort of content around music or audiobooks. Yeah.
Thanks. So do you think I will be listening to your songs and recommending them on the next Content Waves podcast?
Maybe. We'll see we'll see.
Yeah, that sounds good. Well, good luck with that. I so appreciate your insights, and really cool to talk to someone in the space who's seen so much, evolving as everything's evolving, and still passionate about that relationship building piece. I think that's really cool to see and share with our listeners today. So thank you so much for joining, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Monica. You too. Thanks.